If you have type O positive blood, your DNA has a dark secret. What if something you've carried your entire life, something you probably never think about, could reveal a hidden story written deep inside your DNA? If your blood type is O positive, you're part of one of the most common blood groups in the world. But here's where things get interesting. Your blood type isn't just a label on a medical record. It comes from specific genetic variations that determine molecules on the surface of your red blood cells, and those variations can influence how your body interacts with certain diseases, infections, and even blood clots. So, does O-positive blood really have a dark secret? Not exactly, but the science behind it is far more fascinating than the title suggests. And by the end of this video, you'll understand what your O-positive blood can and cannot tell you about yourself. Before we uncover the truth, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next video. Let's start with something most people already know. There are 4 main ABO blood groups: AB, AB, and O. Then there's another important factor called the Rh factor. If you have the Rhd antigen on your red blood cells, you're considered positive. If you don't, you're negative. That means O positive combines 2 genetic characteristics, the O blood group and Rh-positive status, and O-positive is extremely common in many populations. But your blood type is much more than a random letter and symbol. It is influenced by your genes, and those genes have been shaped by thousands of years of human evolution. Here's the first fascinating part. Your ABO blood type is determined largely by variations in the IBABRAO gene. People with type O generally have versions of this gene that result in a different molecular structure on their red blood cells compared with people who have A or B blood types. In simple terms, your red blood cells have a different molecular surface, and that tiny molecular difference can matter. Why? Because viruses, bacteria, parasites, and other biological molecules can interact with these surface structures. Think of your red blood cells as billions of tiny vehicles traveling through your bloodstream. On their surface are molecular patterns. Those patterns are partly determined by your genes, and some microorganisms can recognize or interact with these patterns. That means your blood type may influence how your body responds to certain infections. But there's an important point. Your blood type does not determine your destiny. It's only one biological factor among many. Your immune system, genetics, environment, age, lifestyle, and previous exposure to infections all matter too. Now we get to one of the biggest mysteries. Why do different blood types exist at all? Scientists believe that infectious diseases may have played a role in maintaining blood group diversity throughout human evolution. Different blood types can provide different advantages and disadvantages under different circumstances. For example, research has found associations between type O blood and a lower risk of severe malaria complications. In some populations, that doesn't mean people with O blood are protected from malaria. They absolutely are not. But certain blood group characteristics may influence how the malaria parasite interacts with red blood cells. And there's an evolutionary twist. The same biological traits that may provide an advantage against one disease can potentially come with disadvantages elsewhere. This is called an evolutionary trade-off. In other words, nature doesn't necessarily create a perfect biological design. Instead, populations adapt to changing environments and infectious pressures. Your blood type may be one small surviving trace of that ancient evolutionary battle. If you're enjoying this video so far, take a second to hit like and subscribe. It really helps support the channel and allows us to keep bringing you fascinating science stories. Now let's talk about the part that makes this topic genuinely interesting. Studies have found that blood type is associated with differences in the risk of certain medical conditions. People with non-O blood types, A, B, or AB, tend to have higher levels of certain clotting-related proteins, including von Willebrand factor and factor V, compared with people who have type O. Because of this, non-O blood groups have generally been associated with a higher risk of certain blood clotting events. Type O, on the other hand, has been associated with a somewhat lower risk of some forms of thrombosis. But there's a trade-off. Type O has also been associated with a higher risk of bleeding in some circumstances. So, there is no universally best blood type. Your biology is a balancing act. One characteristic may reduce one risk while increasing another. And that's what makes genetics so fascinating. There's another layer. Researchers have investigated connections between ABO blood groups and conditions ranging from cardiovascular disease to infections and other illnesses. But we need to be careful here. When scientists say a blood type is associated with A condition. That does not mean the blood type directly causes the condition. For example, if a study finds that people with one blood type have a slightly different risk of a disease, it doesn't mean that simply having that blood type will cause you to develop that disease. Think of it as a statistical difference across large groups of people. For an individual person, many other factors can be much more important. Your diet, your physical activity, your smoking status, your blood pressure, your cholesterol, your family history, your age, and countless other genetic and environmental factors. So if you're O positive, there is no reason to panic. Your blood type isn't a medical prediction of your future. But what about the positive part? That comes from the Rh blood group system. If you're Rh positive, you have the D antigen on your red blood cells, and this matters most obviously in blood transfusions and pregnancy. For example, Rh incompatibility can become medically important when an Rh negative mother carries an Rh positive fetus. Fortunately, modern medicine has effective ways to prevent serious complications from Rh incompatibility. For most people who are Rh positive, however, this simply means that your blood carries the D antigen. It doesn't mean you have a mysterious mutation or a dangerous genetic secret. The real secret is much more ordinary and much more incredible. Your blood type is the result of genetic variation that has traveled through human populations for generations. Think about that for a moment. Every time your heart beats, it pushes blood through your body, and inside that blood are cells carrying molecular characteristics determined partly by genes inherited from your parents. Those genes didn't appear yesterday. They are part of a much older biological story. Your ancestors lived through different environments, different diets, different climates, different pathogens, different diseases, and over enormous periods of time, genetic variations became more or less common in different populations. Your O-positive blood is therefore not a secret message predicting your future. It's more like a tiny biological footprint of the past, a reminder that your body carries information from generations before you were born. If you're still watching, comment O+ below if you have O-positive blood. I'd love to see how many people watching this video share the same blood type. So if the title promised you a terrifying secret hidden inside your DNA, here's the truth. There isn't evidence that O-positive blood contains some sinister hidden code. There's no scientific basis for saying that O-positive people have a mysterious genetic curse. The real story is subtler. Your blood type can influence certain biological interactions. It may slightly change your susceptibility to some conditions. It may affect your risk of clotting or bleeding, and it reflects genetic variation that has been shaped by evolution. That's not a curse. It's biology, and biology is often much stranger than fiction. So the next time you see O positive written on a medical card, don't just think of it as a blood type. Think of it as one small piece of your genetic history, a molecular signature inherited through generations, a characteristic that may have interacted with diseases and environments throughout human evolution. And perhaps the most fascinating part is this: your blood type tells a story, but it doesn't write your future. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more fascinating science, genetics, and hidden facts about the human body. And before you go, leave a comment below. What's your blood type, and did you already know about these hidden connections? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.